Hello and welcome back to Rev Real Estate School. I'm your host, Michael Montgomery, and today what we're talking about are 10 side hustles for real estate agents that is not driving an Uber or delivering food. So when we're thinking about side hustles for agents, the first place our mind may go is that we are doing this in order to drive more income. And yes, of course, if we are doing a side hustle, it's so that there is more income coming in. Now, in the nature of real estate is we can have cyclical times. We can have times where income is higher. We can have times where income is lower. Now, over time, you will aim to have that start to level off. But especially off the start, we can have some highs and lows. And so having a side hustle can help with that. But there's another really interesting purpose behind a side hustle, and it is just exploring your interests further. And we should be able in real estate to be able to leverage the fact that we have an element of flexibility in our career. We have time that we can spend on other things should we want to explore it. Now, this isn't always the case. If we are extremely busy in real estate and we want to go 110% in that direction, then we should be doing that. However, we do have the option, and that is the beauty of real estate. Now, the second important question is it bad if this side hustle ends up taking over real estate? And the answer to that is no. And in fact, I'm a perfect example of that. My side hustle, which was Rev Real Estate School, has now taken over my real estate sales. Yes, I still sell real estate, but Rev Real Estate School is my main focus. And so if it wasn't for the fact that I was open to this side hustle, then it wouldn't even exist today. So it's not necessarily a bad thing at all. It's all about how we're growing and learning, whether that be in real estate or outside of real estate. So let's jump into the side hustles now. The first side hustle that you could explore is short-term rental management. Now, it will depend on where you are located because within certain areas, there may be impacts as far as your licensing is concerned. But if not, short-term rental management can be extremely lucrative. It can be extremely lucrative. And here's the thing of it. This is a huge need for people who are buying these types of properties. And the reason this side hustle can be so great, it's already embedded in what I just said. It's the fact that people are buying these properties. So we can help them purchase the property, we can help manage the property, and we can also help them sell the property when the time comes. Oftentimes, people that are in short-term rental ownership also know a lot of other people that are in short-term rental ownership, and they talk. As such, this can be a really, really good mechanism for us to grow income outside of real estate, as well as grow our real estate business. Now, the blocker that's probably in your mind right now is it's time consuming. And yes, that is one of the downsides of this particular side hustle. However, don't underestimate the fact that majority of the work can theoretically be outsourced. The cleaning, the stocking, even the communication with the guests can be outsourced. The accounting of it all can be outsourced. So keep that in mind that this doesn't necessarily have to be something that occupies all of your time. And it can be a really good way to actually end up growing your real estate business, learning more about this asset class, and on top of that, making some additional income. Let's move on to the second side hustle. And this is selling digital products on Etsy. So we as real estate agents likely have a lot of digital products that we have put a lot of time and effort into. So what do I mean by this? I mean Canva templates, specifically Canva templates that we have built. This could be for social media, this could be your listing presentation, this could be buyer guides, this could be lead magnets that you've built. And it can also be spreadsheets, it can be Notion pages. So all of these things are digital products that you have built, that you have put time into, and you can actually sell those on Etsy. And I have spent a fair amount of money buying a lot of different digital products on Etsy for real estate. And that's because it is worth it for me because I don't want to necessarily have to go and create everything from scratch. So if you already have these things, know that there is an audience out there that is willing to buy them. And Etsy's great because once it's on there, this is a very low input of your time. Once the work is done, it's being on there. So the great thing of this is once you put it on Etsy, then people will start to find it. And from there, you don't have to actually put more input time in. You don't have to create the good again. Once it's already created, then you just go about selling it. It can be a really good source of additional income. Moving on to number 3. Now, this one works really well if you are fresh out of the real estate course. And in fact, you don't necessarily need to be fresh out of the real estate course. If you're a seasoned agent, this could work well too. So, what is the strategy? It's tutoring agents who are going through their licensing course. There's not enough of this out there. And the thing about the licensing course is it is very hyper local. So you can't necessarily have somebody who can be tutoring somebody in your area in some completely other area because their forms, their everything that they do in many ways can be quite different. And so tutoring people that are actually trying to get their license can be a really great source of additional income. And on top of that, as we start to teach, we are going to absorb that material even more. So it's going to make us a better real estate agent. It's also a fantastic thing to put on your resume when you are going into a listing presentation, letting people know that you also tutor real estate agents. That will differentiate you. So it's a really powerful mechanism, A, to make more income, and B, to learn more about our industry. Moving on to number 4, and this one is along the same lines as the previous one, and it is you can become a real estate mentor. Now, if you are relatively new in the industry, you can still become a real estate mentor. Now, let me walk you through this. If you have, let's say, 1 year of experience and you've done a number of transactions, you have learned a ton. So the majority of your learning, like a lot of learning, is going to occur in that first year in those first few deals. And then after that, yes, learning will continue, but the pace of your learning is typically extremely fast when you are first in the industry. So even if you have 1 year of experience, you can definitely mentor that brand new agent. Also, let's say that you wanted to mentor somebody in a domain that you know well. So maybe you look to a seasoned agent who needs help with social media. You being a newer agent who knows this domain extremely well, you could actually mentor a more seasoned agent in an area that you know really well. Now, if you are a more seasoned agent, then this is a really, really good idea for you because these agents, and we all know this, whether we're new or whether we're experienced, once we get our license, we're not really ready to go out there and start selling real estate. There is a lot of mentorship that is required. So these folks really need mentorship. So if you are a more seasoned agent, if you've been in the industry for a number of years, this is not only potential for some more income, but it's also very much helping the younger and newer generation of real estate agents that have their license or that are getting their license or that are new into the industry. Moving on to number 5. Number 5 actually comes from me spending money on this exact service and thinking, wow, this is actually a pretty good idea. And it's pet sitting. So if you love pets, you can become a pet sitter. There's a number of different websites out there where you can actually just post yourself on there as a pet sitter. Now, why is this so good? Well, I am going through this right now. We have a trip coming up. We have a pet sitter coming. We're spending $100 or so a day. Maybe I'm getting ripped off, maybe I'm not, but that is what we're paying per day to have somebody come and stay at our house to look after our dogs. So being in real estate, we can work from everywhere. So the fact that we can leverage that, we can work from somebody else's house, as long as we have an internet connection, we can actually put in a solid day's work while also pet sitting. This is a huge potential benefit for us. Simply because somebody working a 9 to 5 wouldn't have that flexibility to go and pet sit, but in real estate, we can. Now we'll have to, of course, be mindful that we'll have showings and things like that, but all things being equal, this isn't a ton of work when you think about it compared to the potential return. Yes, on your time, but you're going to be working that whole time while you're there, very likely, and then also taking care of the house and the pets. Moving on to number 6, neighborhood tours. So this is another interesting one with Airbnb experiences, and there's some other websites that we'll put actually into the show notes that you can use in order to book experiences within your own city. This is actually something that we do quite consistently. So if we're going to a new city, oftentimes one of the first things we look at are what are the experiences that we can do so we can learn more about the history or learn more about the attractions within that city. Now, as real estate agents, we know this very, very well. We know this extremely well. And here's the thing, is we'll be driving people around, explaining the things in our city. And even if we don't know everything in our city, by actually doing this, we're going to have to learn it. And we are working on our communication skills. We're also meeting a new person Sometimes this doesn't even take that long. This can be a 2-3 hour sort of tour, and it can be really, really fun to meet these new people. Now, I don't know if this would work, but it just kind of comes to mind for me that let's say that somebody is there on this tour and then they're also thinking of potentially moving to the city, or they love the city so much, they're moving to the city. Well, now you also have a personal relationship with them. And so you'd want to let them know what you do and why you do this because you love your city. And therefore, if they were ever to move here, or if they know somebody who's going to move here, you are really their contact at that point in time. So it could truly improve our real estate business, and we'll also start to know more about our city and improve our communication skills. Moving on, the next one is property management. And this one is fairly obvious. The fact that we are real estate agents, we know real estate, we know what sells a property, so we also know what could actually help rent a property. We could be very, very good at this. However, depending on where you're located, there can be more licensing that is required. And the other thing about this one is it can be very time consuming. It also doesn't have to be time consuming, but it can be. And it can also be fairly taxing on us. So because we are working on both sides of this, we have to maintain a relationship with the landlord as well as the renter. Sometimes that can be taxing. But here's the other really cool thing about this is you have a renter who could potentially be a buyer, and you have a landlord who could potentially be a seller. A landlord will also know other landlords. So the fact that you're offering this service can be a huge benefit to them, but then also benefit your real estate business down the road. So you just want to be aware of the fact that your license does have to cover this depending on where you are. But that being said, it can be a really, really good tool as a side hustle. This is another one that seems quite obvious, and it's investment properties. So purchasing investment properties. Now, one of the main hurdles with this one just tends to be the upfront input costs. So actually purchasing the property. Now, the thing about this is, and especially in real estate, because a lot of us are going to be having commission income, and that commission income can go up and down. So if we've been in the industry for a short period of time, or if we've had some wild years of up and down income, it can be tough sometimes to qualify. However, you'd be surprised. So talking to your lender and determining, hey, is there a property value that I could actually get qualified for, and start small. Now, when it comes to investment properties, very similar to property management, what I love about this and what I love about our investment properties is we know how to position them. We know how to stage them. We are also a pretty good judge of character as real estate agents. So when we're meeting a potential tenant, we have a pretty good understanding, not always 100%, but we have a pretty good understanding of if that person will be a good tenant. Now, the other thing is this is going to force us to understand rental economics and understand different concepts in the rental world, such as the BRRRR strategy or other strategies that are out there. And it also allows us to network with other landlords. Also, we're paying our future self. So even though there is input costs up front, we are paying our future self down the road. And that's the beauty of investment properties. Moving on to number 9, along the same lines, is learning how to invest. Now, I know this one may not seem like a side hustle in a way. So we're learning how to invest, and we maybe don't have a ton to invest, or maybe we do and we don't know what to do with our cash. But learning this skill has a number of different benefits. First off, learning this skill, yes, very similar to investment properties, we are going to be rewarding our future self. We're going to be rewarding our future self by learning this and putting money away that is going to help us when it comes to retirement. Now, we all know the importance of this. In fact, the brokerages out there, the EXPs, the Reals, are doing this in a sense with agents, and agents are flocking to these brokerages oftentimes because they care about their future income and they care about investing. But you can do this on your own and invest in the companies that you want to invest in. However, I would highly recommend learning about it. Learning about this. The other side to this is we'll start to understand general financial concepts, not like huge, deep financial concepts, but just starting to understand how these companies work. The other thing I love about this is it tends to be a topic of conversation. The stock market, what's going on in the stock market, how it's working, what companies are up, when companies are down tend to be a really big source of conversation when we're talking to people. So having our hands in that market and understanding that, and I find the best way to understand it is to actually have skin in the game, is to actually have money in the markets. And so this is a skill that I think we should all learn as real estate agents. And finally, let's say that you just want some additional spending money from time to time. A way that you can get that is through user testing. So user testing will link up a few different websites in the show notes that you can go to. And basically, people will pay you for you to test their website and provide feedback. And this is actually a really, really helpful tool, especially for businesses like product managers or designers, because they really want to see how you're interacting with their website. Now, this doesn't necessarily produce a ton of income, but it can, for upwards of an hour of your time, you can get up to, say, $100 for just user testing a website. And somebody who has some sense when it comes to websites, such as typically real estate agents, can be really good candidates for these companies because we're so used to navigating websites. And this is something that these companies can really benefit from. So those are your 10 potential side hustles that you could explore if you are a real estate agent. And yes, none of these involve driving an Uber or delivering groceries or delivering food. That's not to say those won't work. Those are also potential options for you. But here are 10 other ones, and some of which are very, very closely tied to our real estate industry and can help us sell more real estate as well. Thank you very much for watching or listening to this episode. Remember, you can reach out anytime at revrealestateschool.com, or I'm on Instagram at the.michael.montgomery. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next lesson.